Welcome to the happy birthday episode of Mind Under Shane. You're 41 years old. What do you think about all this bullshit? 41 years of whatever all this bullshit's about.
Whatever this is, it's the last year's was like the craziest birthday of my life, which is, I guess, saying I'm not a big birthday boy, but last year turning 40 did more of a number on me than I realized, including a trip to the psych ward shortly after.
How many weeks?
So that
How many weeks after?
It was like within a week.
That's fun.
Yeah, it was. We should talk about that. I had. I did want to. If anyone's looking at, first I'll mention some things too. At the end of the show, but if you want like a free, thoughtful gift to get a birthday boy, one of your favorite podcasters, easy thing, listeners, is writing a nice little review or whatever on iTunes, because it helps a lot. We got a review. We got our first non-5-star review.
No!
We got a listen to this. We got it's a 3-star, and the title.
Oh, that means it's real.
That says and the title says would be 5 stars. Listen to this. I love I love this concept and the material, but that one guy's horrific, annoying laugh every 2 minutes makes it unbearable to listen to for me. Sad because I tried and the combos are great, but I get laughing, but it's really obnoxious and makes it hard to listen for a long period of time. So Ramin, if you could please calm it down on your annoying laughter.
What's the username? I gotta say fuck you to them specifically.
No, I don't mind a review like that. We're gonna get worse reviews
tremendously.
than that. Really?
You should have spent that time doing nothing, not bringing our new show down a notch.
Well, that's true, but
and they don't even know your name or my name. They say that one guy. You're supposed to listen if you know us already.
It is. Yeah. That's the hard thing with reviews is you get the nice ones from people that are regular listeners, and then some people listen once, hear the wrong episode or whatever. They're like, boring, because I had someone on that like studies some way in which DNA does a thing in the retina of the eye, and I gotta be like, well, that wasn't my finest episode. It was
Still,
rather boring.
you give 5 stars. You tip 20%, even if the service was shit. You tip 20%. You don't tip 1% because they didn't refill your water on time. You don't give 3 stars. You don't give 2 stars. You don't give 4 stars. You give 5, or you don't leave the review and you go like, look at anything else. Spend your time in any way you want. Who's writing these? Like, have you ever left a 3-star review? What a bad person. Yeah, go ahead, change it to 1. I swear. I'll find out where you live.
It is, and I love so much that you got that birthday hat. By the way, it does make my day. But it is, it is like a negativity bias, and then you say it because it's hard reading the really nice ones, because then it's like, look at how great this person thinks that I am, which is like spell 19. It's like, Ramin and Shane are gems. They're both whip smart, insightful, inquisitive, authentic, and they make you laugh super hard while expanding your mind. They're such a great pair. Love it. And I don't want to get like teary-eyed on the podcast. Thanks, because I have hard days sometimes, and I wonder if anyone's really listening.
You see, those do nothing for me. I need 100 of those. I need 100 of those to just have a baseline of feeling okay with myself.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
I need to be told I'm great 500 times a day, and it doesn't get through. That's just what it creates the baseline of
interesting. We were just talking about being exceptionally hard on ourselves right before the recording of this. You know, there is the 5-star review that's just like, great podcast. That's just like,
that's great too. Give me the 5.
I'll take that. I'll take that 5. But I do like when someone writes a paragraph about how much they like this or here we are, whatever. I'm always like, wow, that was so. It does that gets me a little pep in my step usually for a while. I don't need them. I don't need them nonstop.
But here's another thought on that person that wrote the 3 stars or anyone that gives a bad review or bad comment. I have to always remind myself, if you're the type of person that leaves bad comments or negative reviews, your life ain't doing good. You have a bad life. Your day-to-day existence stinks, and that makes me so happy that the person that gave us 3 stars, their life probably sucks.
If you went to an Airbnb and like they put a deuce under your pillow for a joke and like no one caught that, you get to write it. You get to be like, hey, stay away from this one. There was a deuce under each of the pillows, so it wasn't a mistake.
It was intentional. Yeah,
in both rooms, both pillows. But yeah, I you know, the weird thing too about compliments is people will be reluctant to give them to, like, you ever get after the show when people are like, oh yeah, I think you're really funny. You probably get that all the time, or like, I probably shouldn't even say it. I'm like, no, say it. That's when I'm like, no, I'll take every one of those. You don't understand.
I think there's just so much
maxed out on compliments.
There's some people that hate it, though. I think people confuse comedians for real celebrities sometimes, and comedians want to be told they're great, and then if you run into a celebrity and try to tell them they're great, after they've reached a certain threshold, they're done with it. They don't want to hear it when they're out in the world, at the airport or at dinner with their family. Like, they're so over it.
Yeah.
But we're like, no, come on, interrupt dinner with my family. Come on, sit down. What else you got? You ever hear the story of John Waters, where I think it was Ron White and Joe Rogan or some other giant person saw John Waters at a restaurant and he's holding court and stuff. They're like, oh, we don't want to bother him. And then eventually they go bother him and he's like, come on, sit down. And then 2 hours goes by and they're like, oh, so listen, we got to get going. And John was like trying to keep him around and like still keep the laughs going. So some people, it becomes, you know, you get what you wished for and more. Like, oh man, I wish I could have talked to this person and now it's been 2 hours and they're asking what I'm doing later.
Yeah, I feel bad for people. So if someone comes to like a stand-up science show, or if they come to, hopefully next year we'll be touring with like a Mind Under Matter tour. But if someone comes to that, it's someone that knows us and knows the things that we're into. And that's a different experience than at a comedy club where it's a stranger and they want to come up and they're like, and they're excited. They don't even remember your name or whatever, but they're still just like, whoa, the headliner, the status of it. I get to talk to this person that's a professional comedian. And they come up and do that. And then they're like, you know, it's usually like, do you want a shot? Because no one has anything to say from here.
You know what would be great is if we're doing Mind Under Matter live and we grow our little cult to such a big size that we have language that the audience all understands and the wait staff is sitting there the whole time like, what is this show? Why are they laughing? What did that word mean? if we could get there to where the servers have no idea what's going on and the audience does, that would be a cool place
you're just
to be.
doing like Del the Funky Homo Sapien and with McKenna and Jordan Peter. It's all your impressions. Then we just throw some Dave Wade in there for good measure, just in case they held on for long enough, just for the person that knew, like, was that Del the Funky Homo? Wait, did he just do Jordan Peterson? Then we throw Dave Wade. I give up. What are these guys talking about?
Oh, and there's more to come. There's people we haven't even heard of yet who are yet to be integrated into the show.
Yeah,
if there's some new Greta Thunberg or some new, who's a new character recently? Has there been new characters added recently?
To Life, no. No, it's been the same characters in Life for the last few months anyway.
I was going on a nostalgia kick the other day on YouTube and like looking at the 90s and the way that, you've got Nancy Kerrigan and Tanya Harding and Elian Gonzalez and O.J. Simpson murders his wife. And that's kind of about it. There's only a few main stories that make up the 90s, and I wonder, like, if OJ hadn't killed his wife, we wouldn't have had as much of a 90s. Same with killing Princess Diana. It's like we needed it for the 90s to have some tragedy stories.
Yeah, but no, we got a pandemic. That's a big character. That's a big character.
Fauci, of course. Fauci's a new character.
Fauci's a new one. Yeah.
No one knew who Fauci was, and now everybody knows who Fauci was. Who he is.
Yeah, I will say with my laugh, which we get endless compliments on usually. One, I will say that if a laugh hits you wrong, it's distracting. And I know from I've been in. I remember once I was in the Montreal Comedy Festival. I just arrived there.
Juste pour rire.
Yeah, and I got up to the balcony to check out a show. I'm with my manager or something at the time, and I laughed at a joke. Just one joke just got me, and because I don't laugh much, and when I do, I laugh very hard. And then one joke got me, and then I got a text from someone. It was like, Shane, are you in Montreal?
Wait, they didn't know you were there already?
No.
They didn't look at the program?
Well, I think it was. I mean, it was context. I think it was Ann Harris with Comedy Central. So
okay.
She knows my laugh or whatever. But there is, if you watch my Comedy Central.
I remember we had poutine with them. We went out and got poutine with Ann Harris and Joanne Grigioni. And I remember being like, it was like, I felt as though, not that I made it, that I wouldn't be sitting there had it not been for you. Because you and I were going to go get poutine, and then we ran into them, and then we all got it together because they already knew you and liked you, and I'm like still this young green person that's like trying to get them to meet me and know who I am. I'm like, oh, nice to meet you. So Comedy Central, huh? And then they're like, oh, Shane, you're so funny. And then I like got to sit next to you. I'm like, yes, this is validating my coolness at the cool poutine table.
Oh yeah, that's nice when you're coming up and you still feel that, and then you reach a certain age, or maybe it's just my disposition of life of just anything status related where I'm like, I don't like. I've gotten intimidated talking with scientists. Like when I met Robert Sapolsky, I was like, so everything hits different for everybody. But I remember I met Matt Damon, and Matt Damon was gonna be at a show of mine, and
how tall is he? Like 5'1"?
Yeah, something like that. He was doing I was opening for Joel McHale, and he was making a movie with Joel at the time. So he came to see Joel, and I happened to be backstage, and so I met his parent. Matt Damon was with his parents and everything.
That's wild.
And then I did so I just opened for 10 minutes and I just did a 10-minute long anal sex story. I'm like, looking back at that, I'm like, that's how Matt Damon, I bet he remembers me. You know, I bet like the time he had to sit with his parents in a comedy show.
So this was a decision?
Yeah, I made it. Well,
didn't Matt Damon also talk about wanting to make a porn with story? This is like a 2009 Matt Damon, but I remember him, like in some article, who knows how serious he was being, but he's like, we've never seen a porn movie with like, big production and story. It's always just cheesy story that doesn't make sense. Like I'm talking fully integrated story with, I got to look this up, see if it was real.
Yeah,
Could have been Ben Affleck maybe, but I remember it as being Matt Damon.
Yeah, I kind of don't need that. I feel like
no, of course not. Of course you don't.
Unless it's like an Instagram story, like like a 30-second long. I'll take that kind of story.
No, it serves different purposes, but I don't know, maybe not.
There's with my, first off, you tickle me in a particular way. We've talked about that before. Where I'm sure there's things that people think that you say is like funnier than I do, and then there's things that they don't think is funny as I. Everyone's has a different perspective, but there's, because we've known each other for so long. Sometimes I know when we're getting into, like when I see you start to talk or start to do an impression, I know, I see that the premise is very good and I see where you're going.
Yeah, you know where I'm going
so
already.
excited and I trust that it's going. So I'm already laughing ahead. It's kind of like if you pulled a prank on and you were in on it before the audience was, you know that there's a snake in the peanut brittle can or whatever, but your kid doesn't, and you're sitting there like, oh, I can't wait for this and it's kind of that. So, but I would get it because my Comedy Central This Isn't Happening, if you watch it, Esther Koo. Do you know who Esther Koo is?
Esther Povitsky?
No, Esther Koo. She's like this outrageous kind of shock value. We started at the same time, but she has the craziest. I like Esther. I'll just leave it at that. But she has the craziest laugh you'll ever hear, and it's not in a great way.
Can you do it?
No.
Is it like, oh,
it's,
or is it like
crazy? I mean, it's just watch it afterwards. You'll hear it's all through my entire set, and it's distracting. And if you look through most of the comments on the YouTube video, they're like, who was that girl? Oh, that laugh. It was tons of really favorable comments.
Do you know much about laughter? Even though I know you had a guest on once that was about laughter and not humor, but I wonder how much of our laugh is in our body or how much of it is just cultural. Because who had a joke? I think Jim Carrey had a joke of, this is how rich people laugh, and you can see it all in the face, just the ha ha ha. Like that, the look on their face, like everything is. Someone made the comparison to Chris D'Elia at one point, like he laughs like a rich person.
Yeah,
laughs. And
that's interesting.
I wonder if you had been brought up differently, would you have a different laugh, or it's just kind of embedded in you, like your sneeze or your cough, or
that's a really
like
good question.
Laughing is different.
There's always going to be genetic and environmental influences, and some things are more. Like, obviously, how tall you are is more like 90% genetic. You can
hack it though, right? Like, because Dennis Rodman grew a whole foot in a summer because he was homeless behind a 7-Eleven.
Yeah, there's just weird things that trigger growth spurts and nutrition, this and that, and so, like I said, 90. I mean, it's pretty crazy that 10 or 15% is. Of tallness is environmental influence, which is like, that's more than most people would guess. I would think, but for the most part, they're usually around 50-50. But I bet laughter is fairly. I mean, it's a little tough to tease apart, but I just notice like when I see my dad's side, many of the cousins, I'll see in their eyes, like their eyes will get like a little teary when they laugh and stuff. And it's mine do sometimes a little bit, but theirs are really exaggerated, or the way they have like the crows and it's like a similar like dimple-ish formation, and I'll hear a laugh and I'm like, that's a Mauss laugh. And yeah, so I think there's a bit, and then it's interesting that so many different animals and stuff laugh too. The idea is that
I never thought of who does and who doesn't. I mean, obviously hyenas and chimps laugh, but cats and dogs, not really. Frogs, no.
Well, I think rats do.
Rats
actually.
laugh?
Yeah.
What are they laughing about? They've got a rough deal.
You can tickle them.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, chimps laugh like crazy, and the idea is that it's play. So a lot of times you're kind of play fighting, and a chimp's laughing its hardest, and it's a signal of like, hey, we're just playing a game here. That's it. We're not. This isn't that serious. Which it's I guess when you're all other animals, they're playing as just like fake fighting, basically. Yeah. it's why I was thinking about that today after I got done playing pickleball, and I'm sorry if it makes it, I don't mean to just like knock on people that are way into. I took boxing classes before. I thought it was awesome. I loved it. It was right before I broke my feet and I fell out of it. I thought I'm not like trying to crap on anyone, but it is strange that I saw this video of who's the new like boxer guy or whatever that's blowing up, something Paul.
Floyd Mayweather. Oh, Jake Paul.
Jake Paul. I saw
he's
something.
He's a boxer
like,
now? I just know him as a YouTuber.
I don't know anything about it, but I just saw some clip where him and Floyd or Merriweather or whatever, before a fight, Jake Paul like took his hat and then they started fighting like during the press conference, and they're chasing each other around, and I'm like, this was lunch at high school.
It was.
What are you guys doing? And this is a sport? It'd be like, here's the sport where we crunch up paper and get it wet and blow it through a straw.
Oh, for sure.
To see if you can hit someone's head.
That press conference. The press conference fight is staged, though. Even if it's not move for move, like choreographed or anything, but they're probably like discussing behind the scenes, like, okay, I'm going to steal your hat. You're going to get pissed off. I'm going to run this way. You're going to run the other way. And
as soon as I stop, there will be a tattoo artist waiting there tattooing "I got your hat" on my leg, which is a real thing that happened.
I'm sure. There's like, what, 200 million on the line.
Yeah.
And I think they are not going to get seriously hurt either, because that has ramifications as well.
Yeah. But so, but anyway, that's laughter. But yeah, the idea of signaling that it's okay, the benign violation thing. But then there's just deviation from expectations and stuff too that makes you laugh. My grandma on my dad's side, she used to do this very nervous laugh every time she had this very distinct laugh that was every time someone she knew died. Every time you saw her, it was always the obituaries in her life. And there was always this like nervous laugh that came along with it of like a way of releasing the valve or something like that too. So I think it's an anxious thing too.
Your cousin Jacob died last week. Is that it?
Close. It's a little. It was usually, if I remember right, a laugh leading up to. So we have some bad news.
Yeah. I didn't want to bother you, but it looks like your cousin Jacob died last week.
I get down with that laugh more than the superiority. The superiority laugh of like, hardy har har, I'm better than you laugh has to be one of the worst on the planet.
There's some bad ones. Some laughs grow on you, though. Like, I was thinking about Stavros Halkias. He's got this Gatling gun, like, but like twice as fast as that and very frequent. And the first time I heard it, I'm like, I can't listen to this Gatling gun laugh. And then for whatever reason, I stuck around and now I like it. Like I've trained myself to like the little chattering laugh that most people hate, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it grew on me, which is weird because then if someone walks in on you listening to it, it's like, why are you listening to this? This is awful. But I've developed a taste for it. Too bad.
Yeah.
I worry sometimes about like if you can desensitize yourself to anything, not just pornography or violence or, distasteful humor. And then you've upped your threshold to where other people tuning in might not be on that same threshold.
Oh yeah, I have a story about that. I'll tell on a different episode because it's worth dedicating an entire episode to. I told it on Pete Holmes once, but within the story, it had to do with people living in a house where the fire alarm was low on battery and it was beeping and had been for like a month.
You just got used to it?
They just got used to it.
Oh, that's funny.
And I showed up and I was like, what's your beeping? What is it? Is it like the security system? And they're like, what are you talking about? And then like, what, that? Oh, you just get used to it. They even said that. You just get used to it. And then I discovered it. I was like, I'm not getting used to this. And then I discovered it, pulled out the battery, and I was like, hey, it needs a new battery. Like, oh, is that what that was? It's been doing that for 2 months.
You're like this Santa Claus of bro houses where the bros cannot buy toilet paper or do the dishes or anything, and you have to come in and intervene.
It is the weirdest when you like. I have an alpha kind of dog within me that I can bring online anytime. It's just not a default. It's not my preferred. I'd rather be in a passenger seat. But when I see like someone needs to drive this thing, I guess I'll get behind the wheel, whatever, if no one else is going to drive. But yeah,
you take care of business when called upon it.
Yeah,
like in the last episode where you shoved what was his name, Dan?
Oh,
the
we
Boston
didn't even
guy
because of the order of the episodes. They haven't. That's a
they haven't heard it.
Spoiler
Okay.
alert! Yeah,
yeah. Basically, you intervene in a fight.
Yeah. I've been
Tune in next week to figure
many,
out what that means.
Way too many fights in my life. I was thinking about stupid things I've done. Well, I was thinking about past birthdays. And I was thinking of the two things that come most readily to mind from my childhood. Last year comes readily to mind because I turned 40 and completely lost my mind and ended up in a psych ward. But
I forget how I even heard because I didn't hear it from you. I think I.
Are you sure?
Maybe I heard
Rihanna.
it. Yeah, or someone told me, but then I heard the full story from you afterwards.
Yeah, because I think I was calling you as I was slipping.
Maybe.
I felt, because it was coming on for a while. I'll tell that story in a minute. But the
last year's blurry.
Oh, man, not for me. I was...
blurry.
There was the two things... that I can think of from childhood, which I remember never liking birthdays, but I remember a couple.
Not even when you're 7?
I remember I had one when I was in 5th or 6th grade, so I was like 9 or 10, and I got a water balloon launcher. That's what I asked for, and one of the ones where you have two people hold it.
Oh, damn.
And then you pull. and
then it smacks you back in the head.
No, and then it launches like a long ways. Like nearly I wouldn't say 100 yards, but this park, we went to use it at this park nearby our house, and then I just launched it because I was 9 and I've always just been such a little asshole. I've said that before, but it's true. I really was. I was always in detention. I was always in so much trouble, and I was always trying to get into trouble. And I got my friends over for my birthday. First thing I did, I got a bunch of water balloons for my new water balloon launcher, brought everyone down to a park, and just started launching water balloons at traffic and stuff. I mean, it wasn't like a highway or anything. It was just in town. But I remember we hit a gas station, like the person outside of it. We almost hit a person that parked their car. And I look back, man, there must be so many times where just like a 9-year-old kills somebody.
Oh, yeah.
And just doesn't realize, just isn't just like, this will be fun. I'll shoot this person. And then
drop
holy
a penny
crap.
from the Empire State Building.
And you just live with that for the rest of your life.
Don't gangs do that a lot where it's slightly different, but gangs will recruit very young kids to go shoot at traffic. So then if they do get caught, they're not connected to the gang and they also get a lesser charge. But sometimes when you hear of kids shooting guns in traffic, it's because they were recruited or something.
I mean, I look back at just like the demented thoughts that I had as a kid too. And man, I just hated life so much. It's crazy. And like looking
you
back
probably
on
would
it,
have liked it if it wasn't. You would have liked life if it wasn't, having to go to school and church and just all the bullshit that came with it.
Yeah. It was that. I had a distrust for authority figures since the age of about 5, and like an intense one, and it only built. And I remember another birthday, similar, 14. And what I wanted to do for my birthday was make bombs and blow up mailboxes and shoot paintballs at people's houses.
You said 9?
No, this was like 14. Now I'm
14.
old. Now I'm like in the you should know better kind of. I was a freshman year in high school,
but still a minor.
I
still get to be tried as a minor.
I was blowing up so many mailboxes back then that it was people were trying to figure out who it was. It was stories in the newspaper and stuff. It was just, I remember the first time I saw a mailbox blow up, I was hooked, man.
What's the formula? You just put some gunpowder in it, or
no? It's pretty easy. It's just
firecrackers.
The classic one was, although there's the best one is like a big slam. You remember those like liter soda bottles?
Yeah.
And you crinkle up aluminum foil about probably the diameter of a quarter, but kind of loosely packed, and basically the size of the neck, somewhat
pressure bomb.
packed. And then the works was this toilet bowl cleaner, which is now not on the market because kids were doing this.
The 90s.
But if you combined it and then put it on there, it would just whatever chemical reaction would make it expand and it would blow up. It was significant.
Was it a big explosion all of a sudden, or it slowly like just bubbled over?
Oh no, like. If I put this in your mailbox is in pieces.
That's funny.
Like the dome of the mailbox. Yeah. It would flip. It would dome out the other. That piece would be in a different area in someone else's yard, and flipped in a different way. It's so embarrassing, man. But it's where I was at the time of just wanting to. The other thing that I got really into, climbing on top of my schools too.
That's fun.
It was so much fun. It was actually
during school hours.
No, at night. And that's where I'd hang out. I'd climb on top of schools and hang out up there. That was dope. I still kind of want to do that. the top of large school buildings.
It's got a different connotation though now. What sucks is that any interaction with a school whatsoever as an adult is like predator. You're predating on schools. It's like, no, I just want to climb the building. I don't want the kids around.
I just like climbing things. Yeah, I need to find something else.
Like I remember I used to like walking on the college campus because it's just beautiful. College campuses are beautiful. There's fountains and stuff. But then as you start to get older, when you're just there and you know you're not a professor, it's like, this is kind of creepy now to be walking around. Even though I could blend in as a student, you just feel weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, this is their world. This is their school land. I shouldn't be
Yeah.
sitting in a cubicle somewhere.
Yeah. What was the other? Oh, I'm not sure if I ever told you the story. It was one of the craziest mailbox bomb that I ever did. It was, I was recruiting some of my friends to do it because it was just me and one other friend that would do it. And then I was trying to get other friends involved.
Starting a franchise. Yeah.
You guys got to get into this. And so we did one broad daylight, which is, I broke a lot of my rules this day, but this one was broad daylight. It was a vice principal's mailbox. Have I told this story before?
Nope.
Vice principal's mailbox. Like, we're going to get him. Like, gosh, just some dude that cares about make the world slightly better. Probably a very swell guy. And but he put me in detention or whatever, and so his mailbox was across from his house, and we put it there. We were on our bikes and we start biking away, and the thing takes about 8 minutes to go off, and I had it down to a science. I did so many of these things, and we're biking away, and then we see him drive by and like wave at us. So now he saw us and his mailbox is about to blow up.
Oh, no.
Like, oh, damn. And one of my friends it's his first time doing this. He's like, he just saw us. He's got to know it was us. It's like, well, that's that. Then we're in trouble. That's all there is to it. He's like, no, we got to get it. I'm like, no, that's a bomb. You don't approach the bomb, and he's like, no, we're gonna get in so much trouble. We're like, no, don't do this. So anyway, he doesn't listen to us. He goes over, he opens up the mailbox. I'm like, what are you doing? And he pulls it out, and it's all like you can see it's like 3 times the size. It's about to go, and it must have been hot. And so he like grabs it, he throws it into the street, and as he does that, a car is driving by. It hits under the car, explodes under the car, shoots out, and the empty 2-liter, this is the force, the empty 2-liter knocks over the mailbox. He was trying.
He ended up killing 2 with 1. He got a car and the mailbox.
Almost lost a hand in the process.
Oh, shit. So what happened with the VP then? Did he catch you?
No, nothing ever came of it. We got caught. The one, that was my birthday. The one where I said I got everyone together and paintballed houses and stuff. That one. There was a kid there whose dad was the chief or whatever, and knew his kid was in that neighborhood and was like, where are you guys at? And whatever, got him to talk or whatever. And then we had to go and clean up everyone's thing and replace mailbox. It didn't get we were 14, so I think they took it easy on us. Yeah, so those are the 2 most memorable birthdays that I can think of where like those are some birthdays I was really into. I remember being real jazzed about it. It's so embarrassing. I saw this guy, I think this is on a birthday too. There's these McMinimans and on the West Coast. These they're really cool. They always have like Grateful Dead themes and stuff. They just got a cool, chill vibe to them, and they're not for. It's usually like 30-year-old plus kind of clientele. And what they'll do is they'll take a huge like old orphanage or school or something like that, historic, and they'll gut it and turn it into a hotel with multiple, like many of the classrooms will be its own unique bar.
Cool.
So you'll go into one and it will be like the Jerry Garcia bar, and they're just playing Grateful Dead, and it's this tiny little space, and there's only 14 seats in it, and then there's a bigger bar, and you can get these different vibes, and they always have they often have like a heated like some of them will have the Greek baths, like the heated bath in it or
That's
whatever.
cool.
Oh, they're really awesome, and they're pretty reasonably priced too. They're great business. I wish they were in more places. I think there's like 70 of them, but only the thing that I'm describing, only like 10 of that type exist. But I was in the hot tub-ish type thing with someone, and I saw this scrawny guy. I'm a scrawny guy, by the way, not crapping on scrawny people. It's just when you're scrawny, you try to make up for it in weird ways. You'll wear like super baggy jeans or whatever, and it just makes it stick out more.
Yeah.
And it's just like an awkward thing that you got to figure out.
It's funny how scrawny people are insecure. Like they think they're fat people or something. You'd think that they were based on the insecurity.
If there's any scrawny sufferers out there, it ages very well.
Yeah. And
Everyone told me that too.
If someone tells you that you look very skinny or look very scrawny, this might just be a very LA opinion or something, but you're like, oh, thank you. But if they say, oh, you look very healthy, the first place your mind goes is, oh, they think I look fat as shit. They said I look healthy. They said I'm glowing and I look healthy. Oh, no.
Yeah.
I got to not do third dessert anymore. I got to only do 2 desserts a night.
Joe List has a good joke on his first album about someone.
He eats like shit, too. He only eats like chicken fingers and plain cheese pizza, and maybe not all the time, but he always talks about having like the worst diet, like a 12-year-old's diet. I suck. I'm stupid. I'm dumb.
Well, that's why he feels like that.
Yeah, it feels like shit.
He has a joke on his first album about someone asking him if he's okay when he is.
Like, hey, are you okay? And I said, yeah. He says, well, you don't look okay. I said, well, fuck you. That's just my day. So I was telling my wife, she needs to not strap on fuck me in the ass so much, but I don't care. I just bailed on my list.
So there's this. You almost never bail. You usually keep going with impressions.
I've been tired these
enjoy.
past couple days. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's taxes, which I just finished. I feel good about it now. But I don't know. These past couple days, I've just been slow on every axis of everything.
Well,
just the latency is really annoying me. But I bet I'll be back on track. Some of my woo-woo friends have been posting about like during the new moon in Libra, your body will shut down, blah, blah, blah. So sometimes I use that confirmation bias, like, my woo-woo friends said that the astrological moon. Yeah. So then I feel good about myself. Like, oh, it's okay. Moon. It's new moon in Pisces. That's why I feel bad. Not because I didn't drink water all day. It's because new moon in Pisces. What do you mean water? Fuck water.
So there's this scrawny guy in the heated outdoor pool thing, which I'm forgetting the name of them all of a sudden.
Minimans?
Yeah, McMinimans, and he had this huge tattoo under his neck. He's like with this like pretty girl and everything too, but he had this huge tattoo under his neck that just said, and he had no other tattoos, and it just said destroy. And I think it was even like on his neck too. And I'm like, oh, bud. Like, that's so unfortunate.
Was it part of a larger package, or that's his only tattoo?
That was his only tattoo. And it's like, and it just felt like a permanent wearing pants that are too baggy because you're insecure about your scrawny legs.
Yeah.
Sort of a situation. Like, oh no.
Destroy.
Destroy.
Feels very Jane's Addiction. Like, I can imagine, I don't know which member of Jane's Addiction, but one of them has destroy on their chest. They've just got to. It just feels right.
So I'll talk about my last birthday, because are you into birthdays, by the way? Like, do you care?
I do stuff for other people's birthday, family, and significant other. Other than that, I don't do anything for my own. I haven't touched the thing since like 12, and then again reopened it up at 21 because a friend says like, come on, it's 21, you got to get wasted, you got to do that. And then I don't know. I don't think I did anything
21,
else.
Yes.
21 is significant because, and the way he sold it to me was like, well, it's not about you. It's about being on your 21st so that you and your coworkers can appreciate getting wasted more than they would have normally.
Yeah.
So you gotta use it to do that. And it was fun. Like, we went out with the whole office. I got my boss to slap me in the face as hard as he could. He's like, are you sure? I'm like, I'm sure. And then he did it, and then I'm like, I couldn't feel it. And then, of course, the next day I felt it.
Yeah, I'm sure. Oh, I've done too many things like that. I've had people jump kick me before. God, at least that was underage drinking. No, back up further. I'm just going to stand here and let you drop kick me in the chest because I'm 17 and alcohol's awesome.
We could heal so fast. It's unbelievable.
Oh, man. There's, my 21st birthday, I was like, here's my plan. Every bar, I do a beer, a shot, and a Long Island, which was my favorite drink.
Long Islands are the best.
But they're the strongest drink that there is.
Exactly.
It's like but 5 shots.
But all the sours and bitters and whatever else they put in there masks it so that it's so alcoholic that it doesn't taste alcoholic at all. There's some weird like twist, like when a computer's register hits above a certain number, it goes back to 0. Something like that.
I mean, one Long Island is like you are legally drunk. You can't drive legally anymore. And I did a beer, a shot, and a Long Island at Brother's birthday bar, which I hated, but I did it. And then I went to the next bar and I got a beer, a shot, and a Long Island. And then I went to the next bar and I got a beer, a shot, and a Long Island. I think did I do it 3? I was trying to do it as fast as I could for whatever reason. and
no one's monitoring you, right? This is just all in your head.
Oh, I think it was because it was at midnight. You know, when you're 21 at midnight and the bar's only open till 2. That's what it was. And I was with friends, and so I did that. I think the 3rd or 4th one, I just puked everywhere, all over my shirt, everything. Had a friend that lived right downtown, went up, changed clothes, tried to go out to keep the party going to get a couple more, and I'm just like so hammered at that point.
Do you remember
that was another one?
Do you remember the first time you got really wasted and how fun it felt to feel so bad because it's like this rite of passage? Like, I did it. I got so drunk that I can't feel and I'm throwing up and I feel terrible and the room is spinning. I remember just having a big grin on my face and putting a big thumbs up when my friends were checking in on me to make sure like we don't have to call the hospital, right? Good.
I remember trying to get drunk. That was a birthday too. My God. Okay, so what was that? 18th birthday? So I remember trying to get drunk. I remember trying to have beers or whatever, or a shot of something, and I just couldn't handle the taste of it enough to get enough into my system. And then I think it was around my 18th birthday or something like that. I was huge into weed, huge into weed. Didn't like alcohol. It never worked. And then that was the first time. It was Screwdrivers, and it was at
is that orange juice?
Yep, orange juice and vodka. Yeah, at Bolt's Barn.
That's a lot of orange
John
juice.
Bolt. Yeah, and there's a barn but it's like, it's in town. It's not on a farm. It might as well just be another house. But because it was a barn, just in a neighborhood, it's in a neighborhood. But because it was a barn, we felt, and there was woods next door to it. But on the other side, it's all houses and stuff. But we felt like that was, a safe place to do whatever. And I remember getting really buzzed and drunk for my very first time. And then I remember trying to chase one of my friends, like catch him. He is messing with me, and he's just jogging backwards away from me as I'm like, get over here. And then I just like passed out and woke up, and the cops were, I thought the cops were there. I don't know if they ever were. And I was like, cops, and everyone ran. And then the next day, everyone had a different saga of what happened to them. It probably wasn't even cops anyway.
It was nothing. It was just people, maybe.
We don't even know. It was just headlights or something that pulled up there. But
it's weird how sometimes you're afraid of cops and then nothing happens, and then other times you don't even expect them coming, and then all of a sudden they're just there. I haven't had a run-in with the police in quite a while.
When I was on the road, I got pulled over pretty frequently. I'm great at getting out of tickets.
LA, you don't get pulled over by cops. You only get parking tickets.
Mm-hmm.
And everything... the money you would have spent on speeding tickets goes to parking tickets.
Well, if you have, especially when I had California plates, they didn't like that. But some cops just don't like out-of-state plates. They're like, that's something.
Stolen, yeah.
And, so I've had tons. I'm pretty good at, actually, you should mention you're a comedian. I think we've talked about this before. You should mention you're a comedian if you're pulled over.
Really? Won't they think you're wasted? One time a cop, and this was early in comedy, I would have never done it again, but a cop pulled me over and said, all right, you're a comedian, I'll give you 1 minute. If you can make me laugh, I'll just let you off with a warning. And then I sit there and did like one-liners to him for a minute and just bombed while he's like shining a flashlight in my face. And I just
really?
I just ate my dick for a minute in front of the police officer on the way back from San Antonio to Austin. And then they still let me off with a warning, but he didn't laugh at all. But I feel like he won because he didn't laugh and he had the power. Yeah. So imagine just telling jokes for a minute and getting nothing, and then the guy just being like, all right, well, I'm still going to let you off with a warning. Just be careful next time. Get that headlight fixed.
They will frequently make you perform for them. Mm-hmm. It's just, I'm an authority figure. I'm king in this situation. I can make this person do whatever I want, and also not worth the paperwork. So yeah, I mean, I'll throw credits out. I really... Yeah, if I'm in the Midwest, I try. Oh, you listen to Bob and Tom? Like, I go on Bob and Tom regularly.
I do Biden. I'm the guy that does the Biden voice.
Mm-hmm. You do that.
I also do the Mitt Romney voice on that show, or wherever other people they get.
You know what I normally do on my birthday under normal conditions is I actually book I make sure and have a show booked. That's my treat to me. I do enjoy
earned attention. You get earned attention that way.
Well, I enjoy any opportunity for reflection. I like milestones anytime that at the time we're recording this, I haven't had any of these yet because this is days ahead of time from when it comes out. But I like looking back on a year of my life or whatever, but it always makes me feel like, oh, I have a gig, I'm working right now, things are going well. Usually I'll try to book it at a club that I really like or whatever. But it is a weird thing to do for your birthday present to yourself. It's like jumping out of your own cake.
It is. You're doing exactly what Paul Reiser does. I don't know how I know this. I think because the only Paul Reiser interview I ever heard, he's like, well, my wife's like, hey, it's your birthday. What do you want to do? And I said, I want to do stand-up. So he said, all right, let's go do stand-up. So we go to the Improv, and then I start to do stand-up. And I've got my notes up there, and I'm trying bits out. And some of them are working, some of them aren't working. But yeah.
There's this guy, Robbie Roadsteamer, that I started with, and he used to wear a jumpsuit with a cape and do
Robbie Roadsteamer?
Yeah, he's awesome. Rob Polito is his name, and he's a super trippy dude, but he used to do this macho man kind of heavy metal character on stage.
Like Jim Brewer, kind of?
A little bit,
different.
But kind of mocking it rather than celebrating it.
Yeah.
And he used to always, he was a real comics comic. He was always shitting on comedy and everything and like lame cliche stuff and whatnot. And he was very quick. And he'd have a lot of dumb songs. He kind of did like the Howard Kramer thing of starting a song and not finishing it sort of thing. Or
Dragon Boy Suede.
With
DJ Scratchatory Rape.
Yeah. He has like one of his big hits was I'm Sorry Your Cat Has Ass Cancer. Was one of his songs, which is there was some line in it about, Mother, what's the priest here for? Or something like that. And he was always hitting the keyboardist and stuff, but he'd always be like, I don't do stand up because Paul Reiser already did it all in 1989. It was, every time he said that, it was always hilarious. Every single time he used that line.
He probably did do a lot of it, to be honest. I can't name like a specific Paul Reiser bit, but like I'm sure that all of us Zoomer and millennial comics, any sort of observational bit that we're like, oh, I can't believe no one's done a twisty tie up the bread bit yet. Yeah, they've done it. They've done it already. I see so many people ripping off Brian Regan's Me Too bit, or You Too, not Me Too. The where it's like a waiter says like, enjoy your meal, and then you go, you too. Like, hey, have a nice flight. Yeah. You too. I see that ripped off everywhere.
Really?
But why would people have heard of it? If you don't seek out Brian Regan, you would have never heard the bit. But
I guess.
But everyone has ripped that bit off.
I'm surprised to hear that. I mean, it is a common human experience, but yeah, if you're a comic, how did you miss that most famous Brian Regan bit?
It is weird because if the bit works, it means like you get it, thus you've had the thought before. But it's not ripping it off. So there's this weird line of when are you ripping off something and when is it so common of a thought that 1,000 people will have thought of it already?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
So
I don't know.
So
Paul Reiser did all of it in 1985.
Robbie Roadsteamer, he's super hilarious. He went on the Gong Show and did a song called Hot Dogs and Applesauce that was like this mock patriotic song. He's a ridiculous human being. So I'll tell my birthday story from last year because I was thinking about this when someone commented on my laugh. I was thinking about how if there's only been a couple times when Ramin hasn't been able to make me laugh, and it's because I've been in a manic episode.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I remember.
Yeah, those were scary moments.
Really scary moments. And I think that basically I kind of, whatever's regulating, letting you know when you're dreaming and when you're not dreaming, and if it's ever all been a dream or whatever, something goes off there. Something gets inhibited there where you're like, wait, has this this all been a dream the whole time? Is this the dream and the dreams are reality? And so it's intense. I remember the first time I had a manic episode, I remember thinking that the turmoil, the idea of like projecting, you're creating your own reality. And I remember thinking the stress inside my mind was being represented by the external term. It was when Trump was provoking nuclear war with North Korea and everything. And I'm like, is this because of my mind that this is? And every time there was a plane flying overhead, I couldn't stop but get nervous, be like, is that a bomb that's going to drop? And once you're listening for planes, there's constantly planes flying over your head everywhere. So you're always in this panic state. And I reached out to Ramin the first time, and he would try to make me laugh, which he can always do reliably, except when I'm in that state, because the stakes are so high. Like, this is nothing to joke around about, Ramin. I don't even know if you're real. And so it's, if I don't, you have like a out, because if I don't laugh at one of your jokes, it's like there's pressure for me to laugh, because I might get, it's one of the signs that maybe I'm unstable.
Yeah.
If you bomb, I might have to go to a psych ward, because I don't know, I think Shane might be crazy again.
Yeah, he didn't like my list impression. He didn't laugh as hard at my half attempt at a Joe List impression.
Lock him up. But yeah, so and by the way, so if you want to do something for my birthday, a free thing you could do for any artist anytime. This is one of those things that everyone wants to like write a nice review or whatever for someone, and you get lazy and there's not enough time in the day, and you want to support the artists, you want to support the shows that you're into. But if this is straight up me gaming the system. All right. But because it's a new podcast, the algorithms don't just look at number of downloads. They also look at like number of downloads relative to where it was last week, relative to how many comments were. And that's how it's deciding who to give it to. And if you write a really favorable review, people like you might get suggested the podcast, so you can really help it grow just by engaging a little bit. And so if you've liked the show, what I want nothing more for my birthday is to write an awesome review for this show, subscribe on the app, do the likes, the
5 stars
follow
only.
us, follow, and don't say like, I'm doing this for Shane's birthday. Just write a sincere thing, so that when other people write it, they know that I'm going to check this out. This is meaningful and it sounds like it might be up my alley. Follow like the @MindUnderPod and that sort of thing. That's like bronze level. Thanks for listening. Make sure you're starting from episode 0 because we keep building on ideas. This one's a little bit of a different episode, but silver level, just make sure you subscribe on your app. And gold is like if you comment on YouTube and the different socials and stuff, that really helps favor the thing. And
what's the main one though? The main one is write that iTunes review, right?
Yeah, the mum stone is if you write that. That's a mineral that I'm making up for the show.
Yeah, it's more powerful than Beskar.
It's Veskar and an infinite. It's Veskar wrapped Infinity Stone.
Yeah. And what's the other one? Unobtainium. What's the Black Panther one? God damn it! Wakandim. I knew it.
I'm shocked I was able to pull Infinity Stone out.
Infinity
of my
Stone
ass.
is the Thanos ones. God, what is it called though? Vibranium. Yeah.
So there, because that will make this birthday better than my last. So my last birthday, it was I turned 40 in my parents' basement during a global pandemic is the gist of it. And by the way, before I'm telling this as an entertaining story, I'm not telling this as a please feel sorry for me. And I also, for people that have had some issues with mental health, it might be beneficial to hear some of the circumstances.
I love that you have mental health issues so that we can be lax about it. So that it's like, well, you got to be sensitive towards people with mental health issues. Nope. Let's make it into a laugh. Let's have a laugh.
I'm friends with one. Yeah. I'm friends with a crazy.
I've got friends with a crazy, a black, a Jew, and a gay. I'm set.
It's okay. I'm friends with a crazy.
It's okay. I'm friends with a half gay guy. And then he's like, I'm not gay. I'm like, shut up. Yeah.
It's okay. I'm friends with the crazy is almost a t-shirt, but not quite. In hindsight, all the stuff that happened, so basically what I'm going to set up is 2019 was an incredible year for me. And I had a ton of awesome things happening, but a parallel universe where a global pandemic didn't happen, I wouldn't have this podcast. There's probably I would have just been grinding it out on the road. There's all these wonderful things that have happened to me. So I'm not saying this is some sob story, just as an interesting story of like, we all went through crazy shit last year. But what happened was so 2019, I started doing stand-up science. I launched fully. It was when I tried it out in 2018. I was still doing regular club stuff, and I had finished the Good Trip tour in 2017, was still doing that, and going back and doing clubs, and was like, I don't want to do clubs anymore. I don't want to perform to strangers and like meet them halfway and deal with comment cards and blowjob shots on their birthday and stuff like that.
What's a blowjob shot?
It's when you're at a show for like $50 or whatever, you like right before the headliner, they're like, Suzanne, your friends got you this thing. And then you get on stage and it's whatever, it's probably butterscotch or something like that, shot with whipped cream on top. And then you use no hands and you go down on it on the
how degrading
on the stool and drop it back, and that happens, and then it's all sticky and like the person spits everywhere, and the crowd's loving that someone just did this, and then I gotta get up there and talk about like evolution shit.
So the reason we have 33 spinal columns as opposed to 32 or 34. Hey, you're not listening. Why is that woman vomiting whipped cream looking substances? Miss? Okay, so 33 vertebral columns, 12 cranial nerves. Write this down.
Write this down.
It is funny to like go up with the most like cerebral shit after the most base level drunk strip club bachelorette party vibe.
I tried it with 2 shows and I got it like enough, but then once I did the indie show, it was like that's it. That's what you do. You do the indie shows. You get the audience for you. And you can now with podcasting and everything else. We can get mummies to come out and enjoy our show that don't need to be reserved because they get it, but 70% of the room doesn't know who we are and was wondering why you're doing Del the Funky impressions and stuff.
I want to do blowjob shots now at our live show.
We'll do blow. But it's just us each show doing it, not we don't let audience.
Of course not. No, they get to watch us get drunk off of butterscotch whipped cream liqueur and then tip us afterwards and then say how great they were. 5-star reviews only.
So I built the show Stand Up Science where I had 2 professors in each town, and so I do a show that was and I was still feeling it out, but it was going well. So in 2019, I did 100 of those shows. I did over 100 cities of that show. It was going well. I also got to go overseas, and I got to do my first couple DMT talks, and that's when I met this girl, Sophia Rockland, that ended up doing this tour Head Talks with me.
Why Plants Dream of Electric Sheep. Check out her book.
Yeah. When Plants Dream is her book. It's a terrific book.
Sheep.
And
it's a good joke. Okay, keep going.
And we're at this incredible like Burning Man-ish festival. We bump into each other. We're both going to be speaking. And she has this book coming out that's about to be launched, and Stand Up Science is going really well for me, and she's wondering how to get the book out. I was trying to do a psychedelic version because for years I've been trying to get put together like pop-up psychedelic events since the Good Trip thing went so well. I was like, I'll get artists and musicians, and so I was talking with a bunch of people. How would I pull this off? And I see Sophia give a talk, and she's like one of the best speakers I've ever seen. And I was like, if you want to put together this tour, it would help me launch this thing. It would be amazing. You would sell a ton of books. We put together this thing, do a trial run. It's amazing. And we're like best of friends. We're traveling around, trying out this thing, making money, doing incredibly successful shows. And you made awesome art for the shows, and I got Stand Up Science going as well, and it was such a specific, like I had been trying to figure out, like I've been trying to take Peter McGraw with me on the road because we were writing a book together. I've been trying to figure out ways that it wasn't just a random academic that I have no idea how they're going to do in each city. I was trying to solve that, and it's like near impossible. Sophia happened to have this book out. She was young, she was working ayahuasca retreats and stuff. So it was just kind of perfect. And I was like, okay, you help me set this thing up, and then you'll move on with your life, and then I'll have this thing set up. We get all this merch, everything's going, and then a pandemic happens I'm sitting on like thousands of dollars of merch for a show that's never going to happen again.
What are the merch items?
Like blotter paper with our faces on it, and like posters and stuff like that. And I still have a bunch of her books. We just talked recently, but she has a full-time job now and everything. That was like always the plan of like, this was an isolated, and there's no one else I can even think of that this could happen. And then I also fell out of like, I started at the beginning of the pandemic, I started getting harassed by all my psychedelic followers too, because they're like, you believe in how come you can't see through the matrix and understand that this is fucking blah blah blah. I'm like, I put all this work into trying to promote something that I believed in, stuck my neck out there, alienated myself from family and all the stigma that comes along with promoting psychedelics, and then to have like big parts of the psychedelic community be like, oh, I can't believe you're a sheepo and you believe in vaccine. And I'm like, fuck you guys. And all this is happening at the same time as I'm trying to, now I'm out of money, and I have a whole team. I have Rihanna. I had someone that I was their first client running my social media, and they were starting up, and I was like helping them build their business. I had like dependents, and now I'm like putting that on credit cards because I don't know how long this thing's going to last or whatever in the beginning. And I'm like, oh, I can just reorient my career. I'll do live virtual shows or something like that. Trying to figure out. And I was hypomanic from like March.
What's hypomanic?
Hypomanic is the most amazing place to be. It's
it's like hypermanic. Which one is hypo?
Hypo is like you're firing on all cylinders. You don't need to sleep much at all. You're just like who knew a brain could work like this? This is amazing. And just ideas, just constant ideas and just working like 14-hour days and stuff, and like excited, but it's also all the anxiety of losing all my income, a global pandemic, all the other stuff. And then, so I was already under a lot of stress. And then, mid-May, so the one time in 2017 that I went manic, there was this weird thing. So there's a lot of time travel ideas attached to it. Like one of the things that I told Ramin was that, like, it was something to the effect of, if you watch Christopher Nolan's movies backwards, it's like, that's the key to, I think we were at Meltdown when I was trying to tell you my dumb ideas.
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
Man, Meltdown.
And, which is basically that your subconscious is picking up on things that your consciousness isn't, but you can see it, and it creates these butterfly effects. And then if you record things digitally, eventually AI accumulates everything and is able to go back in time and isolate these events to figure out and try these small changes in things, and to extend the universe. Is this whole thing. And it all had to do, I'm obsessed with Christopher Nolan movies anyway, but I got hung up on the idea that it was like a combination of Inception and Interstellar and the Earth, and then Memento was things going backwards and stuff. I had this whole theory, and I was like, his next. So I was obsessed with everything going backwards, like everything. If I drank something, it was like, oh, I'm actually spitting it back in. You know, when you see someone pop out of the pool, that like they dive in, but it's in reverse. Everything looked like that to me. Like I couldn't stop picturing things like that. I
told you about the Red Dwarf episode, right? The one where Red Dwarf is this British sci-fi show where each episode there's like a different phenomenon they encounter, much like in Star Trek, but they go to a parallel universe where the big crunch is happening, so time is going backwards, and they arrive on the planet, and he gets there, and then his back is just sore, and he doesn't know why. And then later in the episode, he's standing by a broken window, and he's like, oh shit, I know exactly what I need to do. And then he just gets sucked through the window, and the window like recreates the shattered glass, and he's like, my back, it's all better. Like, so he just had to wait until it was time to fly backwards through the window.
Yeah. It was, I had lots of thoughts like that about how time moved, and it was the only way that I could explain what was happening to me. And I have PTSD kind of from my first experience with having a full-on manic bipolar 1 episode from back then. But I was like obsessed with this idea at the time. Well, mid-May of last year, under all this other stress, I happened to see this preview pop up. So I said back into that, I was like, Christopher Nolan's next movie is going to be this, all about this time moving backwards, and it's like the next extension of the ideas that he's working with. You'll see. And it was about how you can read people's subconscious, not what they're saying, but what they, when a therapist is like, oh, so what you mean is, or what I'm hearing is, and it's different than what you're actually saying.
Yeah.
It was kind of that sort of stuff, but also with time and all this other, anyway.
So what I'm hearing is that you want to make love to your dog, even though it's your uncle's birthday. Is that right?
No.
I'm sorry, we're out of time. I'm just going to write that down in ink and have it on your file. And I'm retiring from therapy, so the Bill is going to take over next week. So he's got your file. He's all good. No, wait, that's not what I meant.
So there's that was mid-May of last year. Christopher Nolan has a new movie out. I'll watch the preview for Tenet. Cool. Wonder what that's about. And I hit play, and immediately it's like, you aren't firing the bullet, you're catching it. And I'm like, oh, that's what I was. I want. And then, and it was like subtle at first. It wasn't as mind blowing. I was like, no, that's just a coincidence. Even though years ago I was so convinced and hung up on this, that this is what his next movie was going to be about for whatever reason. And then I just started seeing like crazy synchronicities everywhere, which is mostly once you just start to notice things that you wouldn't normally notice, it just becomes very meaningful for you. And
once you're in that place, yeah, everything is a conspiracy.
Yeah. And then on May 25th, my birthday, as I'm already kind of like hypomanic, experiencing, and the synchronicity, it was synchronicities where I was like, I'd now had three, like I had now had three pretty serious manic episodes, so I knew kind of what to look for. And I'm like, I'm feeling it coming on, but we'll just see what happens. It's tamed itself down a couple times, the last couple times. And then so it's my birthday, and I quit drinking on my birthday as well. Same thing happened the first time. I quit drinking, and alcohol will keep a lot of people from launching into a full manic 1 state, because it's a depressant. And I started exercising a bunch, and I'm like, just getting really, my mind's just firing a million miles an hour. Well, May 25th was also when the George Floyd thing happened.
Was it? I thought it was June 8th. No. Oh, maybe it happened on May 25th, and then there was protests on June 8th.
Yeah.
Weird.
And then what was the thing that happened? And then things really started revving up, and I started getting like disoriented, and I started having panic attacks, and that was the first time too, was triggered by panic attacks. And then I had this dream that it was a few days later. I had this dream that nothing I had ever experienced was real. It was always like a joke on me. Every time I was doing stand-up, it was like me setting myself up, playing a practical joke on myself, and I was actually the audience, not laughing with me but at me, or something like that. And it was all leading to this moment for something, like I needed to do something really important. I don't quite remember what it was. And then right at the end of the dream, it was like, and we can kill you at any time. and I woke up, and my heart was like, and I woke up, I couldn't breathe, and my heart I thought I was having a heart attack, and I went to call it, like it was so intense that I went to call 911. And I looked at my phone, and I thought, I don't think any of this is real, and I think this is a trick. And if I call 911, that's just like buying into the trick. And for whatever reason, I just went out, like my parents' front yard, and I sat out there, and I was like, well, all right, that's like playing it. If this is real and I am having a heart attack, if I fall over in the front yard, hopefully the neighbors will just see and do something. But then to appease the paranoid part of me, I won't use my phone.
Good compromise.
And we'll give a little to you each. Get your okay. How about this, kids? And this is when the protests started happening. But it was when I woke up from that dream. From the moment I woke up from that dream, I could no longer tell what reality was. I could no longer tell like what was a dream and what wasn't. And then the protests happened, and the fires and stuff like that. I remember I walked with a friend that had come from Minneapolis, and he kept on asking me if I was okay, because I couldn't pay attention to anything, and I was just like acting really strange. And then it just really revved up and got out of maybe I'll tell the full story one day, because it's like there's
The
family
funniest-
involved and stuff. But
The funniest part I remember was, I mean, you might be getting to this part, but where you decided to turn off all your social media and everything because it's getting too intense. And then as you're trying to turn it off, you see all these messages that are like, silence is violence. Anything not, if you're not reposting this, if you're not drawing a picture of George Floyd, you are complicit in police violence, or whatever stupid slogan shit that gets carried away because, as we all know, like it starts off as a real movement and then it becomes all about like the slogan, performative virtue signaling of like making sure you say the right rhyme and you write the same
attention grabbing and like tribal stuff and there's a fucking global pandemic and there's a fucking lunatic that's president that's provoking all this shit and saying tomorrow night is fucking mega night. That's what he said.
Really? I missed that part. That's incredible.
It was his first tweet they ever took down.
Really?
Yeah, it was. He said it was when he did when the looting starts, the shooting starts one.
I just remember Law and Order. He used to just tweet Law and Order in all caps.
Yeah, they took the when the looting starts, the shooting starts thing, and then is what he said when there's like there was like this video of a peaceful protest that they fired. That they fired into, and then people fucking went fucking bonkers, and then Trump got on, said when the looting starts, the shooting start, and I'm watching this, I'm like, holy shit, is any of this real? And it's pretty close to where I'm at, and then I remember thinking about how many times I've gotten away with, like, I remember thinking about all the times I've been pulled over in my car with drugs, like on tour with like so many drugs in my car, all the time, so much, and always got away with it. And then I was just like thinking about, you know, like fucking white privilege shit and all that. And it was just, at the same time that I was not a fan of anyone getting together in public with like masks or not, because there's a fucking global pandemic and we didn't know what was going on with that. So it was like also all these competing, like very, very intense competing points of view.
Whiplash. There was huge intellectual whiplash for everyone, even if they don't admit it. But the way that we were, like, there was so much shaming for going outside and not social distancing and not wearing masks. And then it flipped just like that. Like, if you're not outside screaming at the cops, you're the piece of shit now. But 3 days ago, it was exactly the opposite. And then it flipped back and then back and forth and back and forth.
And it was, and my brain just broke. I just lost complete grip of reality. I like got it in my head. I wanted to confront the police, and it was like this fucking crazy thing. And then that was how I ended up in a psych. I mean, basically, I thought everything was CGI, so I just thought like I could turn into any size that I wanted. Like, I thought this is all fake. I just thought I could just like, I could just clap my hands and like everything would change. And I'm just like figuring out how to do that. You know, it's not happening.
You could if you knew how, but it's like in Mario. Mario could become big, but you also have the rule set that's in the code. So does Mario know how to break the rule set? He probably doesn't.
Right. And
just because it's a simulation doesn't mean there's also not restrictions that are pretty tricky to get around.
Right. And when like we have our little we have one day we're going to sell a custom made straight jacket.
Straight jackets, yeah.
Which, I mean, we're going to sell one of the, like, we put it up there for a joke, but we're definitely going to unload one of those on Patreon.
Yeah, someone's
point.
Gonna make like
it's
$6 million. Someone's gonna make $6 million on ass coin or boob coin or something, and then be like, "Why not? I'll buy a straight jacket."
That's taint coin money.
Oh yeah, and taint coin.
Don't ever forget about. There's gotta be. How could there not be? And then, but when people are like, "Well, they put you in a straight jacket," It's like worse and like better than at the same. Well, just if you want to know what the treatment is, you just have someone that your roommate or your spouse or whatever, just have them just strap everything, all your limbs, everything to a chair. So you just there's not anything other than maybe your fingers.
What if you have an itch?
Can move. It's
Won't the itch drive you crazy?
You are out of luck, and you just cannot move. You're just in a chair, and you can't move. And there is it calms you down. Somehow there's just a part of your brain that eventually goes, and there's like a cop there, there's like nurses, doctors, everyone's like, what is this?
The cop is probably so happy to not be on the street and to be inside on a psych ward. Like, yeah, I'm gonna avoid outside for like the next 3 years.
And it's like, it's such a unpredictable mindset too. How do you? Every situation's probably different when someone's like that. But holy smokes, if you just strap all of your limbs to a chair, there's something. I don't know if it would work, because I think maybe you just need the exact situation where there's authority figures there. But there's something about it that is like, all right, I give up. Like, I thought they were like trying to sneakily interrogate me for secret codes in my mind or something like that. And I'm like, I'm not giving them up. And they're like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? And eventually
that's gotta feel so fun though, to be, I mean, the paranoia surely takes over, but just to be the center of attention and in your head, to be the guy that has the codes that's going to change everything and the whole world is conspiring against you. That sounds so fun. Even if you're like about to die, it's like, I'm the guy, I'm the Jason Bourne. I'm just a nobody. Yeah. Like every day I just feel like I'm nothing. I'm so nothing. I'm a tiny little piece of gum on nothing's shoe, and I'm a teeny tiny little ant checking out this and that. But
yeah, I mean, it's intense. I mean, you definitely, when you feel like not just the world is on your shoulders, but it's all just 100%, because it's not just, well, if I go away, everything goes. It's the weird thing is I got in this headspace that happened the first time around, which is every one of your representations of anything in your mind is, if you run a simulation in your mind of like arguing with your neighbor or fighting someone or something, there's a part of your mind where you did that, and like that was life. You made life. You made a person in your head just to picture yourself like punching them and their head explodes so you can think that you're powerful or whatever.
You're dressing up your own mind as the other person. You're literally doing role play with your own self and then beating the shit out of yourself disguised as your neighbor or whoever.
Yeah. But then like, what right is that of yours to do that to that life in your head? And then but there's no helping it. You can't not picture, if you're almost in a car accident, you can't help but picture, oh man, my car could have got smashed in and I could have died. Well, you just killed the person in your head. You picturing that, you just made them get in a car accident in your head.
Oh yeah.
And once that spirals, it's just like, oh, all the deaths that all the murder that's happened inside my head, all the, just horrible stuff and the way you treated others. And yeah.
But it also, the error in that way of thinking is that you created it rather than it already existing and you tuned into it. Like the reality where that guy gets in a car accident already exists. He's wearing a Arby's hat in the other version. He's listening to a different thing on the radio in another version. Like every version already exists and we're just tuning into it. So there's no blame as to, oh, I killed that 3-year-old kid in the car because I imagined it happening in an alternate universe.
Yeah, I know that normally. but
Well, yeah, of course, normal me knows that.
In that state, man, it can feel pretty intense. And and then but it turned out ultimately pretty good, because that trip to the psych ward was so that was my second trip to the psych ward. I did 2 like trial run psych wards before the main trip of the first one, because I was
Opener
manic
and
for
feature,
so
yeah.
long. They brought me in, they're like, yeah, he's crazy. Okay, he slept for a night. He seems okay. And every time I slept after the big one, I slept for a full day.
Nice.
Like when I woke up, an entire day had passed and they're like,
when do they
you
unstrap
slept
you?
for a whole... I don't remember coming in or any. I do remember. I remember getting to a point where I was strapped in, and they were like, "Oh, I think they said, because it's basically like a little prison cell with a cot," and I think they said, I was very opposed to taking. I was sure they were like poisoning me or any medication or was this and that, and finally I gave up. And they just asked if I wanted a sedative to go to sleep, and I was just like, "Yeah, I'll take that." But then the weird thing was I woke up halfway through my full day slumber in a different room that I didn't remember getting into it, and I woke up to like a doctor shaking me and being like, "Here's some medication for you. Take it." I'm like half asleep, going, "No. Get that out of my face." And that's a weird, to wake someone up from a slumber and to be like, "Here, take these pills." And there's cameras everywhere. It's not the best thing for paranoia. And then there's also...
It seems like they're trying to keep you in there. Seems like everything about that building is designed to keep you staying in there.
Yeah. And that's also...
Because it's a business, right?
It's a business, and that's a working theory that other patients have that they will share with you. You know?
What's the cheat code to pretend like you are crazy? Because it's like if you say you're not crazy, they're like, "Well, you're staying here forever." But if you're like, "I'm crazy," all right, you're free to go.
The cheat code...
Is there a cheat code, or you just kind of have to wait it out?
Yeah, you kind of have to wait it out. I mean, it was meetings, a daily meeting with a psychiatrist. There's a couple cheat codes. So the first time around, I talked about this on Duncan's show a couple times, but the first time around it was, once I finally I just started picking up. I just started taking control over something. And I was like, this is just too crazy. I'm just going to start cleaning up after myself. And I'll clean up after anyone else too. If there's coffee spilt or whatever, I'll just clean up and I'll do something that's like heading in a right direction, because I'm a very messy person. And getting that down calmed things down. I was also on medication then. This time I started, so no meds this time, and this time I just embraced, so I didn't embrace it right away. I was still like, what the hell am I doing here for a day or two? And then I just embraced that I was there for who knows how long, because that's the crazy thing, is you don't get a sentence. You don't know if you're there one day or the rest of your life. That's horrifying. It's absolutely
Same with regular
horrifying.
jail. Regular jail, they don't tell you until you've gotten to see the judge for the first time.
But you will eventually get to see the judge, and then you will eventually get a sentence, and you can mark days on a calendar. There's never a marking of a day on a calendar in a psych ward.
Because they don't want you to even look at a clock, right?
I think that there's clocks. It's always different, but I
like that that it's always different.
Yeah.
Good facility. Karen looking nice.
Yeah.
New haircut.
what's the thing that I? Oh yeah.
What's the thing?
So there was a few things. Once I approached it with curiosity, which is just approach with curiosity. There's a shirt.
I heard
approach
that,
with curiosity.
I heard it might have just been on a movie I was watching recently, but heightened curiosity is the sign of depression declining.
That makes all sorts of sense, because think about we talked about this before, of like when you don't, all the things that you love don't do it for you anymore.
Doesn't it suck that it's like it's either nothing does it for me at all, or everything is infinitely fascinating. Like if you're really tripping, like in just this pencil, it's so cool. It's filled with graphite and it's reflective, and if I press it down on this paper, it makes an etch, and I can make any etch I want on it. And there's digital ones, and there's TV, and there's food, and there's the sky, and then the next day you don't care at all.
Yeah, but that feels good, but you also can't be that guy forever.
It's true, but I want to. I want to be him forever.
Well, but even you say that now, but I mean, no one wants to invite constant awe guy to a party. You know, they invite you to a party. They gotta warn people before you show up. Like, hey, sorry, my friend Shane found out we're having a party. He's a really nice guy. He's in awe of people be like, oh, that sounds great. I love people that are curious. They're like, yeah, it's a bit, you'll see. And I walk in like, oh my God, walls? Door, are you kidding me? These floors, even the dirt in the cracks that you don't even, what you want to clean. Why would you even clean such a beautiful imperfection? Elbows? How does that even happen that you can bend an arm? It's incredible. And just that
is pretty incredible. Level. I gotta give you props for that one.
Just at that level with everything all the time.
Do you hate that?
Your brain and the people around you need a break from that at some point. But also, if you're a mope, your brain and people around you are going to need a break from that.
Not just the being in awe, but don't you hate the constant analyticalness that we have to do? Like I'll be about to wash my hands, and I'm thinking about like what is making my elbows hyperextend, and these like tentacle things coming out that I control to make the water. I'm like, why do I have to think about? I didn't think about this when I was 6. Now I'm always thinking about my bones and my blood and the muscles and the thoughts that are choosing. Like, it's like, fucking stop analyzing it already, you piece of shit. Just be a thing. Be a thing.
Yeah, I don't. You're barking up the wrong tree here, I'm not the best audience for that, because not barking up the wrong tree. You're talking to the wrong person.
Preaching to the wrong choir.
Yeah, because,
soliciting the wrong prostitute. Beating the wrong neighbor's wife.
There you go. You're beating the wrong neighbor's wife right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is 102. I thought this was 103.
Because I genuinely, when you were like, why would these tentacles? I gotta wash them under the sink. I was like, oh, I hope I have a thought like that tonight.
Oh, that you have the curiosity. I just don't turn it off.
That. Oh yeah, me either. But I don't know. I like that. I go back and forth with the just be sentiment. I'm not sure how much I buy into it, but one of the best things about the psych ward this time, when I did approach with curiosity, was what my mindset was. I am a tourist right now. I'm not gonna be here forever, and even if I, whatever, like, it just is what it is. And this is an interesting situation to be in. Very few people ever in their life will ever be in a situation like this.
It's more rare than prison, right?
It
sounds like it is
exceptionally rare, and you're with people that are so fucking crazy too. Some of them are very normal and like just check themselves in because they're feeling suicidal or whatever. Lots of people are in a similar state as you, and so you can see, you know how you can see where someone else is making the errors in their decision making or their fiscal choices or whatever easier than you can see it in yourself. Same thing with crazy. The thing is with being manic, if you go outside fucking manic and you're like butt naked talking about how nothing's real and you want to fight a cop, like no one's gonna be like, oh, I get that, you know. But if you're in a psych ward, everyone gets it.
Yeah, instant support structure.
They've all been there already. They've had those same thoughts, and that's what's interesting. Because at first, the first time around, it was so nuts because I was like, are they reading my mind? Is this telepathy? And then the second time around, I was like, oh, they're just going through this similar experience. And now I can see the mistakes in my own cognition because I'm watching where they're, I'm seeing like slightly heightened versions and stuff in it. And it was fascinating. And it was, I started exercising a ton. And then I noticed, so one thing that they do, they put like colored markers all over the different doors. So they have, you got to understand, they have staff rotating in all the time. And each staff is kind of starting anew and needs to make sure like what level person this is. This person has this you need to be able to walk in a door, look at a color on a thing and kind of have a sense of what kind of animal you're dealing with.
Were you the bunny hill or you're a black diamond?
I have no idea. I didn't know. I never figured out how the color system worked, but that's what it was for. But your first time in a psych ward, you think it's a puzzle that you need to solve. And no one explains that to you. No one says like, hey, when you go in here, like there's some things that we do that your brain is going to pick up on, that like you're going to get paranoid about. It's a common experience, but just ask us questions and we'll explain. It's just something that we do to help organize things for efficiency, for your safety. We don't have it all figured out perfectly. We're doing the best we can, but it does seem to cause some paranoia. So if you're experiencing that, just ask. We'll happily explain anything that you're going through. And they don't do that. They just they don't tell you what the colored symbols are, where they're writing like weird notes on things that don't make sense to you. Like
what level of facility was this? Like, cause maybe the 5-star hotel sort of thing would have that feature, but if this is more like a motel this is like a, Best Western of psych wards. The Best Western of psych wards isn't going to say like, well, there's an ice machine over the corner, which is a hallway down from the soda machine. Don't get confused. Don't think we don't have a soda machine. But if you need extra change, just come downstairs. We've got warm cookies. They don't do that. They just.
I thought this was a pretty nice one. The last one, the first one I was at was pretty horrible.
The first one in Portland?
The first one was in Portland,
and then second was Wisconsin.
Yeah, and there's
you missed people, the LA one. Isn't that crazy?
The
LA one's got to be extra crazy.
It has to be. And there's something of like a dominance that happens too. So when people have been there for a while, they'll approach you. They'll get in your face. When there are personalities, not everyone's like this, but there's certain personalities in every psych ward as far as I can gather in my limited experience. But I imagine that this happens a lot. There's personalities that want to introduce, like, be the welcome party for every new person that comes in.
Welcome
and there's
to school.
Like
yeah.
some sort of like power that comes along with it, but they're often some of the crazier ones. But there's something like they have it on you, like the things that they say make sense to another manic person in this weird way, and they've been there for longer, and you like, do you trust this person, or is this person gonna punch me? Like, what is this? And I just think that once I started embracing it as like wow, this is so interesting. It was and I kept on each day was like, I'd talk to a therapist or whatever. I'd be like, I don't want to be here. You got, and I think at first they're like, well, okay, but you'll have to like present that in court. Like, there was a whole thing. This was a whole situation that you got yourself in, and we're going to court to get, or you can just sit here. And I'm like, all right, I'll sit for a couple more days. And then it was the day when I was like, you know what? I don't care how long I'm here. This is interesting. I can hang out here. The food's pretty decent. I'm reading good books. I'm like, and that's the day that they let me out. Once
that's
you're
the secret
okay
to life. That's the secret to everything. To picking up women or picking up men or getting the job you want. That aloofness or the Chinese finger trap. Like going the opposite of your instinct. Have we referenced this Seinfeld episode yet? Where the episode where he decides to do.
Oh yeah, we did once, but that's okay. It's a good
George
hit.
concluded that everything in the past he had ever done was wrong. Thus, the opposite of his instincts must be right. So he just started doing the opposite. He started wearing velvet. He started telling women he met that he lives with his parents, that he's unemployed, and it just turned his whole life around. And everything that he did was opposite, and it worked.
Yeah, and that's how you get out of a psych ward as well. And I mean, get yourself out of a state where you need a psych ward, which is more important than getting out of a psych ward.
I guess maybe slightly.
But yeah,
I feel like I'm so well equipped now, having heard your tales. I feel like I could get out of it 50% faster than I would have otherwise.
They do fucking weird stuff to fuck with you, man. They do. Like, I swear, they'll like test you in weird ways. And this is I still sort of believe this, where, like, for example, there's this guy, he worked there. He was a bright guy. He was a psychology student or whatever. We kind of hit it off of like, he liked that I had a science podcast and we had some pretty cool conversations. He wasn't like one of the therapists or whatever there. He was just whatever. I think it was a part of his school or whatever. Well, one of the things was, so now I'm like trusting this guy. And one of the things, there's a Where's Waldo book that I happened to look at in the beginning of it when things were still making all these patterns. And I noticed this really beautiful thing, which is, have you seen a Where's Waldo book in your adult life?
I'm trying to remember the last time I really looked at one, but maybe I'll know what you mean. I can remember it pretty well.
You'll get it right away when I say it. It's that
the fake Waldos. Is that what you're bringing up?
No. It's that if you actually stop looking for Waldo,
he comes out. Yeah.
No. Everything else in the drawing is way more interesting. All the scenes are really interesting, detailed, crazy, fun, funny, like weird scenes, like this clusterfuck of interesting. And the whole trick is, in all this, can you find the one boring person in this, and your conscious spotlight is ignoring all the interesting stories happening so that you can find the most boring part in it. And then you find it and you flip to the next page. And I found myself looking at these. I recommend anyone with kids I found myself looking without looking for Waldo, and like, oh, I can't believe I never saw these drawings before. They're so cool. There's all these weird things. There's like fire trucks happening with fires happening with all these weird, like silly things happening all the time. And it's really
the amount
like
of different characters.
It's really incredible. And
I remember thinking about the illustrators, like the illustrator that's hired to make it was probably like, oh, this is nothing. It's 8 pages that's nothing. I can have it for you by next week. And then when they look at what they have to draw, they're like, oh shit. I thought I had to draw 8 pages, but I have to draw 800 different characters, each with different personalities, outfits, and relationships to each other.
Yeah,
and throw Waldo in there. But go ahead. What was the part after that?
So they're actually pretty fucking kind of cool to look at. And that realization was making me see things about like just a reminder of how fast consciousness can shift and everything. And I have this interesting conversation about consciousness and about that very thing, the spotlight effect, and how we direct our focus. And with like one of the staff or whatever there. The next day, I woke up and they took out all the Where's Waldo books out of the library.
After you made that, you made that connection yourself, or after you announced it?
After I had a lovely conversation with this guy, I thought we were like having this great conversation about this
funny.
thing.
They thought it was a
just
problem.
Like fucking with me. No, I like swear they're like fucking with just to like test you to see if you'll kind of like go off the handle or whatever, or get paranoid or say, like,
if that
why
breaks
is someone
you,
taking my Where's Waldo's book? Like if you're too obsessed with a thing that you shouldn't be, if you're overly paranoid about a thing. What if you were intentionally fucking with people that are like not in the best headspace?
Did you just play it cool, or were you like
yeah, I played it cool, but
were you like, hey, do you know where those books are? Someone else might be reading them. Don't worry about it, I'm good.
No,
or were you like, have you seen the Where's Waldo books anymore?
No, it was more like, these fucking assholes. Is this what they do to people? It wasn't about me. It was just like, are they just fucking with people?
You're the goldfish and they just have to tap on the bowl.
Yeah.
Are they still, can they see me? Are they going to move if I tap on it? Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's gotta be weird working there.
So yeah, that was my 40th birthday-ish last year, and I never thought I made a fuss about 40th. I even like recorded a live show on my 40th birthday. I don't mind pretending to make a fuss to like, hey, if someone wants to celebrate a person's life and show appreciation, terrific. I will use that to get you to do the thing that you normally want to do anyway. Everyone always wants to write a review to a podcast they like, and they're just too lazy to do it. And you just sometimes just need an extra nudge. So do that for my birthday. That's normally the thing that I like doing. But 40th birthday is made me, and I felt this approaching it. But there was just something about turning 40. Maybe it was because I was turning 40. My parents, which has this like dependent mindset, like I'm in the passenger seat, I need to get in the driver's seat kind of, vibe to it too.
Are you still in your old bedroom with like old baseball trophies and stuff?
Yeah. The bowling trophy is bowled at 237.
So you're in a museum. You literally are living in a museum of your past.
And it messes with your head. Like I feel myself being like defaulting back to like childhood-ish, kind of like I'm messier and stuff like that.
Weird. But I have the opposite because I was separated from my parents for the last year and a half. I haven't seen them outside of a digital screen. Mm-hmm. And then you've seen your real parents every day. I'm like, I'm too independent now. Mm-hmm. I'm going to have an OnlyFans or something tomorrow. Why not?
This is something I would say to when people are like over the hill and, oh man, halfway to death or whatever is how people look at 40. It's been,
if you're lucky, you're halfway.
The exact opposite for me. It's been more of a realization of I'm not going to die young. I'm going to live for another 40 years. I've sabotaged myself the most I'm going to sabotage myself in my life. I'll keep doing it some, and like I'm gonna like hang glide and stuff like that. But
careful! Like, my friend died hang gliding.
Really?
My friend who, it's weird that I had brought this up earlier. I was bringing up.
Is this true?
It's true. The first night I got really drunk, and I was saying that I was like putting my thumb up, and I was so happy that I had gotten that intoxicated and the rite of passage, etc. It was with my friend who later died in a hang gliding accident a couple years later. Wow. And when my friends told me about it, I I didn't believe them because it was so outlandish. They're like, he died in a hang gliding accident. I was like, that's
that is crazy.
And then they're like, no, we're serious. And then I had to go look, and sure enough, he had been taking hand gliding lessons, and then after 3 or 6 months or something, he didn't pull up fast enough and crashed into a mountain.
Oh man. Well, I want to parasail then. That'll be safer. Holy smokes.
And
How
I'm sure
old was
that
he?
Let's see, this was in 2010, so that would have made him 29, 30.
I mean, that's awful
no.
that
25.
person had all that potential and didn't get to, realize the rest of their life. And
especially
at the same
when it's
time,
right
there's
when you're
something interesting about like going out that way.
About crashing into a mountain and then just then it's done, or you're in the next
Yeah, I'm more concerned of like the deterioration is like what scares me the most of aging,
Oh.
Like
yeah, but there's
the
ways to
mind,
do it.
lung cancer, stuff like
That's
that.
fine. I think that's all fine. I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
I remember hearing Robert Downey Jr. saying recently that he's losing his vision and he's cool with it because, it's like, whatever, just it's getting blurry. It's cool. Don't freak out.
Well, to me, it was a wake-up call to just like, it wasn't about I'm happy. It was a newfound, oh my God, I have 40 more years of this. I might not, but I need to plan as if I do.
You might have way more.
I might
Shit
have
could get
way
wild.
more.
It could get really wild really fast.
I might have 60 more years and this is like, I was like, I got to grow up. I got to make things happen. What's crazy is being the adult in the room. There might have been times in my life that I would let my ego get to my head or think I was like some sort of big shot or think I was like smart or should be in charge of things or something like that. But never did I actually feel like, oh, fuck. Like, this is the age where you're the adult this is like the most adult that there is. Like, this is everyone running things is 40. Like right around here. Like,
you've been able to run.
Shit.
You've been able to run for president for more than 5 years.
Yeah.
I think about like the way that AOC is 30 years old or something like that. And she's, the future of the Democratic Party and the voice on all these things. And I always saw politicians as people older than me. And now we're at the age where younger than us politicians are entering the stage. And it's like, oh, damn, I don't even know how government works. And then there's a person younger than me in the government.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That knows what policy is and knows what form to sign and what the ramifications are, or at least pretend to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So that's the biggest head fuck, and maybe it might be different. Like if sports are a really big thing to you or something like that, or
yes.
or if like having more children or something like that is a big thing. And you're a female, is it like a big thing to you? Maybe 40 means something different, but to me it means, oh damn, I'm still acting like a child in way too many ways, and I can't keep doing this for another 40 years. Like something needs to happen. So
you got to drop.
Yeah, stuff I got to drop.
Do you have specific things? I mean, you were saying more in terms of attitudes, but were you thinking like, oh, I can't drink as much, or I shouldn't go to bed so late, or what?
No, just conscientiousness, man. Like a never-ending battle of do the tiny stuff that's so easy to do, but there's some part of your brain that thinks you're above. Like you said, finishing taxes or whatever, like it's such a head fuck for me to, it's such a mental battle for me to, I'm doing laundry right now. Like, why is it a mental battle for me to do? I can construct a whole podcast and I line up everything and put a team together and get the equipment and figure out the things. But to do laundry is like,
'Cause
oh
you have
my
to.
God.
We talked about this last time, or
Yeah.
maybe it's next episode, but the stuff you have to do versus stuff you want to do versus stuff you have to do. And it's all in your head. You make a to-do list and then you made that list, but the fact that you've been looking at an item on it for 3 days means that you hate that item.
Yes.
Even though it takes 5 seconds to do it, you spent more time hating the fact that you have to do it than the time it takes to actually, like, I'll sometimes have to override my consciousness and, like, let's say I need to write you back because I'm like, oh, I forgot to send you that image. I'm sorry, I need to send it. And then I realize a whole day has gone by. I still haven't sent it. And I'm about to pass out and I'm beating myself up. I'm like, you still haven't sent him that image. I have to just manually override, be like, okay, body, you are no longer in control. Like the task is now in control of my body. I am handing my body over to the task and it is just going to fucking do it. Even if there's typos, even if I lose, whatever, just like,
I mean, it's crazy, and we're doing so much. Like, with this podcast, we're doing so much.
Yeah, we have a whole dancing circus bear that rides a unicycle every episode, and it costs us like $10,000 to get him to go by each time.
And no one's even seen it yet.
No
the bear
one's
is just to
noticed the bear.
inspire us. It's not even on camera or anything. It's just what we need to get in the right mindset.
Yeah. A literal bear on a literal unicycle. A grizzly bear, not a polar bear or a black bear.
Well, I was thinking about I just wrote a thing on my Discord that was talking about how asking our store's open, and I was like, please send any feedback, and just how much shit that we have to, because I ran a focus group ahead of time and it was really helpful. But the original concept of the show was every other episode was going to be public, and every other episode was going to be Patreon only. So if you wanted to hear every single episode, you'd need to be on Patreon, and that was it. And people were like, people will hate you if you do that. You need a totally different thing. So then we created an entire other series called Mind Under Art and a bonus monthly Mind Under Matter. So there's actually more content. There's more episodes of content on Patreon than there is out to the public. So it was what we signed up for ended up being like 3 times more the work that we're doing. And but yeah, we're killing it. But it's the conscientiousness stuff of the tasks that's what I'm working on. A birthday gift to myself would be to do the small, boring things. Most of them only take 2 minutes. Do that shit way more often. And that's way more important than the big ideas and the dreams. I'll have 1 million of those. I'm not worried about those. Checking off the tiny little like email tests and stuff like that. Holy crap, that's a monster.
Do you're at the beach and then you pick up a seashell and you're like, oh, wow, I'm going to keep this. And you put it in your pocket and then you're walking a bit more and you start to notice that there's quite a few of these seashells. And then you're like, oh, I guess I don't need to keep any of them. They're cool. But the scarcity was very overestimated there. And I feel like that with ideas sometimes where I'm like, oh, I got to remember this idea and this one and this idea. And then eventually you sit there with like a phone book sized sketchbook of ideas, none of which really resonate. You're like, oh, maybe it's not all about the idea saving. It's about the generating and having the muscle.
And those are all just the pathways that we've formed of just like, you know, we've turned ourselves into idea factories.
The pathway sounds better than the muscle.
And not so much the execution factories. Yeah. That's the tricky part. But yeah, well, thanks for wearing a hat and joining me for a fun, silly birthday celebration. I'm actually...
Don't forget to write that review for Shane's birthday, everyone, and buy some merch too. Don't be stingy now. Support the show, support the birthday. Keep this boy out of the psych ward. Do it.
You don't need to make a transaction. Well, people are welcome to buy merch and support on Patreon, but a less transactional thing you can do that would be free and meaningful is to write a review. That would be awesome. If you did that would be incredible.
So here's how the transaction works. If you write a 5-star review that does not say happy birthday, that counts as one happy birthday. If you buy merchandise, that counts as another happy birthday, so you're good for next year. And if you support the Patreon, that counts as 4 happy birthdays. So you don't have to wish Shane another happy birthday till 45. So just, pay those taxes early and
And oh shoot, we have we'll plug it next episode. We have another Camante de Buffon.
Oh yeah, we should save that to when we can say it longer, right? This is already 2.5. This is 2 hours and 9 minutes. Jesus. Yeah,
we gave them a special birthday treat. So next week on the because usually we do separate intros and outros. We're blending it all together on this one. Next week on the show, we already recorded it. It's a really fun episode. It's all about our start in comedy. It's all about hitting low points. We talk about getting in some trouble with Johnny Law, having a low point, pursuing our dreams, and then we talk about the idea of your dream becoming your own prison, about being both the king and the slave in a modern world. And it's a really cool episode, and you'll get to it's another one that's a little more personable, and you get to know us a little bit more. So if you're into that, you're really gonna like next episode. So until next time,
keep on salivating, honeys. Ding!